Tomo was an ugly loser tomboy with a bad character as big as her jugs. One day she suddenly confessed to her childhood friend, but since everyone thought she was one of the bros, he asked her,
"Why are you gay?"
The morning after the failed attempt of confession, they walked to school the same way they had glued each other 1,000 times as kids. While walking to school, Tomo remembered that one time she had worn a skirt just to make June notice she was a girl. But the clueless moron asks her if he started to prefer sausages over melons. Fast forward to the present, the certified dingus playfully spanked her bun, and Tomo immediately shifted his ribcage with her fist. Later that day at school, Tomo asked her close friend Misuzu for some advice on how to look more girly so June could finally stop seeing her like one of his bros. Misuzu then advised her to ditch her baritone voice and sound less like an ape. So during lunchtime, Tomo decided to try out the advice by lowering her voice, but June told her that she sounded just like an old geezer with anger issues. Angered at hearing those words, they began to argue, and it led to Tomo giving him a sweet uppercut to his jaw. After school that day, Tomo returned home, and when her John Cena father noticed the bruises on her face, he demanded to know what happened to her. Tomo explained that she fought with June, but her father wasn't mad about the bruises. Rather, he was mad that she lost a fight to a wuss. Tomo, on the other hand, fired back and accused him of being the cause of her predicament because since she was a kid, he had been forcing her to learn karate like a boy. The next day, while walking to school, June apologized to Tomo for the fight they had the day before, and then revealed that life would be pretty boring without her. But this only made Tomo flustered, and they finally squashed their beef. During lunch break, Tomo and Misuzu stayed on the school rooftop to eat. However, Misuzu didn't understand why Tomo would want to have lunch with her when it was obvious she preferred to eat with June. But Tomo told her that eating with June would make it look like they were dating. Nevertheless, Misuzu insisted they all eat together and then forced her to meet up with June. Shortly afterwards, Tanabe, June's friend, approached him, demanding to know if he and Tomo were smashing. But the dumbass mistook smashing to be some kind of hardcore sport, so he told Tanabe that they do it all the time, even twice on Sunday. Misuzu overheard their conversation, and later that evening she told Tomo everything June said about her bending over for him, like the average woman with Gojo Satoru. Pissed, Tomo immediately charged to meet June and then beat the living daylight out of him. After school that day, the rain began to fall heavily, and while waiting, Misuzu approached June and demanded to know why he had refused to join any club in school. June replied, saying he wouldn't want to join any club that Tomo wasn't in. Hearing this, Misuzu curiously asked what would happen to him when Tomo finally got herself a boyfriend. But this statement made June pissed, so he nudged her straight into the rain. Before long, Tomo found them waiting for the rain to stop. Wanting to help, she suggested that Misuzu share her umbrella with her, but Misuzu declined. As a result, June finally got the chance to share the umbrella with her. While they walked home, Tomo deliberately avoided any body contact with June, which led to a part of her shirt getting wet. Concerned, June asked her to move closer, but she explained that she had karate practice earlier and was all sweaty. Even so, June moved closer and, to her shock, said he loved her disgusting smell. Flustered and mortified, Tomo bolted into the rain faster than Usain Bolt. Not long after, June caught up with her and noticed her shirt was completely soaked. Unfortunately for him, this also led to an accidental peek at her jiggly wigglies. Overwhelmed with embarrassment, the useless virgin sprinted off faster than his shadow. The following morning, while Tomo spared with Misaki during karate class, the guy who was in awe of her impressive karate skills was distracted. In that moment, he let his guard down, so Tomo seized the opportunity and delivered a swift karate kick straight to his clown-looking face. While stretching after practice, Tomo confided in Tanabe and revealed that the reason she practiced karate with the guys was that she'd already whopped their asses so hard that none of them wanted to spar with her anymore. In addition, Tomo pointed out that because of that, she was a total failure in making friends with girls. But Tanabe assured her that it wasn't true. He mentioned that she was a charming girl and then encouraged her to have more confidence in herself, which made Tomo slightly embarrassed, receiving her first compliment from a guy. After karate class that day, two ugly-ass girls with a crush on Tanabe spotted him chatting with Tomo, and it sent them spiraling into full rage mode. The next day, they cornered Tomo, ready to throw shade and put her in her place. But when they witnessed Tomo casually crush a drink and like it was a marshmallow, they got so terrified and couldn't stop imagining her doing the same to their melons. However, later that day in class, Misuzu advised Tomo that not every girl communicated with their fist like barbarians. She pointed out that some just wanted to be girls and quarrel verbally. Taking the advice to heart, Tomo linked up with the ugly girls and asked what they wanted. Still terrified, the girls shakingly pointed out that they liked Tanabe, and all they wanted was some advice from her since they noticed she was close to him. Hearing this, Tomo immediately became excited that the girls actually came to seek love advice from her. Elated, she thought that any girl who could be relied on in matters of love was truly an alpha female. With that, she told the girls that the first step to getting closer to Tanabe would be to become her friend, and if they accepted, then she would help them shoot their shot. Later that day, while Tomo and Jun rode home on the bus, Tomo was fuming. Once again, Jun didn't treat her like a girl, and it was really starting to get on her nerves. While she stood there, visibly annoyed, some bald creep with a peanut-shaped skull decided it was his moment to get handsy with her buns. Tomo's first instinct was to turn around and dribble his shiny head like a basketball, but she hesitated. Instead, she decided to wait and see if Jun would notice and step up for her. After what felt like an eternity, Jun finally caught on. To her surprise, instead of pummeling the bald idiot into oblivion, Jun calmly handed Mr. Baldi over to the cops like he was returning a lost wallet. After the ordeal, Jun casually suggested that Tomo should stop wearing skirts to prevent incidents like that from happening again. Naturally, this earned him a punch to the face for his brilliant comment. The following day on the rooftop, Tomo recounted everything that happened on the bus to Misuzu. At first, Misuzu was furious about the bald groper, but she eventually calmed down. When Tomo brought up Jun's advice about ditching skirts, Misuzu rolled her eyes and explained that Jun likely said that because he didn't want her to experience something like that again. Still, she scolded Tomo for wearing such a short skirt in the first place. In addition, Misuzu advised her to stop wearing long shorts underneath her skirts. Tomo protested, but Misuzu explained that it was perfectly normal for girls to wear pants underneath skirts. Reluctantly, Tomo agreed to give it a try. At the end of the school day, when Jun saw her wearing just her skirt without the usual shorts, he froze like a popsicle. While they rode the bus home, Jun couldn't stop imagining all the guys wishing to bend Tomo over, which made him increasingly uncomfortable. As they alighted the bus and began walking home, a sudden gust of wind made things worse. Jun got an Ultra HD view of her turkey slice. His brain short-circuited, and he passed out on the spot. When he wakes up, not wanting to talk about the turkey slice, Jun suddenly apologizes for telling him what to wear, making Tomo fall in love even more. The following day at the basketball court, Misuzu asked for the full gist of how things went. Tomo confessed it was a disaster and then mentioned how Jun had collapsed after having a peek at her peaches, making Misuzu go bother Jun for being such a coward and a liar. Several minutes later, a hot blonde with 2 separate countries on her chest strutted into the school, instantly becoming the center of attention. Predictably, all the simp boys swarmed around her like flies on dog poop. Tomo, on the other hand, noticed how much attention the girl, Carol, was getting from the guys and couldn't help but feel envious. For once, she wished she could attract that kind of attention too. However, Misuzu calmly explained to her that with how manly she looked, the only thing she'd attract was Diddy and his baby oil. Still preoccupied, Tomo couldn't get Carol out of her mind as she walked down the school corridor. Lost in thought, she accidentally bumped into Tanabe, who was holding hands with Miss Massive Melons. Caught off guard, Tomo froze. Tanabe then introduced Carol as his fiancée, but Carol, on seeing Tomo, instantly labeled her as a man-snatcher. So from that day on, Carol's favorite hobby became calling Tomo stupid every chance she got. Carol even went as far as meeting up with Misuzu to seek advice on how to bring Tomo down. Misuzu, who loved to stir drama, then made good use of the opportunity to send her to Jun. So during PE, the dumb Karen hid inside Jun's locker, and when she finally got the chance to talk with him, she asked him to be her personal trainer. With those 2 very massive reasons staring him in the face, Jun didn't stand a chance and reluctantly agreed. With that, Jun and Carol started spending a lot of time together, which made Tomo boil with jealousy. Unable to take it anymore, Tomo stormed up to Jun and demanded answers in front of Carol. At that moment, Carol finally realized Tomo wasn't interested in her donkey of a man and had no plans to steal him. Relieved, Carol decided to make peace with Tomo. Later on, Carol and Misuzu shared a cake together. Carol then asked Misuzu to be her friend since she was a loner, but Misuzu told her they could only be friends if she asked Tomo. So the next day, Carol did just that, and Tomo, who had always wanted to be friends with a busty chick, instantly agreed. Shortly afterwards, Tomo and Jun had their usual bro moment, and that was when Jun dropped a shocker that he and Misuzu once dated a while back, which made Tomo froze in shock. When Jun left, Tomo felt betrayed that Misuzu had kept such a secret from her all these years, so she went to the rooftop to angrily confront her. But Misuzu shrugged it off as nothing and explained that the relationship she had with June was shorter than Kelvin Hart on Tricycle. She further explained that June had once confessed to her, to which she agreed to date him because the guy was getting a lot of attention from girls, and she saw it as an opportunity to flex with him as her boyfriend. But then, the idiot turned every date into Tour de France and almost sent her to the afterlife with cycling all day. Afraid of losing her life, she decided to call the relationship quit. But before she could, June dumped her first and bruised her ego for life. So because of that, she had sworn never to forgive him. After hearing all this, Tomo asked if she still had any feelings for June, but Misuzu replied that she had lost all feelings for the Jackie. Later on, Misuzu cornered June because she wanted to know if Tomo was the reason he had broken up with back then. But June replied, saying he broke up with her because she was as flat as plywood and had an emo scary face. Later that day after school, while walking home, Tomo asked June that since he and Misuzu were done, she wanted to know if he liked anyone else. June replied that he didn't find any girl attractive enough, which relieved Tomo, but she tried to hide it. The following day in school, Tomo and June ran into Mizaki, and seeing him, June remembered that Misuzu had once told him about a guy who Tomo was spending quality time with in the karate club. So as Tomo introduced Misaki to June, out of jealousy, responded by karate chopping the dude in the middle of the head. Of course, Tomo immediately grabbed June and disfigured his face. Realizing he might get beaten up again, June awkwardly extended his hand for a handshake, but squeezed Misaki's hand hard enough to show he wasn't playing nice. After school that day, Tomo ditched walking home with June and explained that she already had plans with Misuzu and Carol. So June went home alone, and that was when he ran into none other than Misaki at the bus stop. At that moment, June recalled Tomo warning him to go easy on Misaki or risk losing his balls, so June tried to hold a conversation with Misaki, and they even entered the same bus ride home together. Inside the bus, Misaki questioned why June didn't want to join the school's karate club. In response, June said he couldn't because he wouldn't be able to beat Tomo, so he would rather continue his training at Tomo's dad's dojo. The next day in the karate club, Tomo asked Misaki how it all went down since she heard he and June walked home the day before. Misaki replied, telling her it was cool, and stated that, surprisingly, they both talked for a bit. Upon hearing this, Tomo instantly became elated and then revealed that she had once tried introducing June to some of her male friends, but the dude just kept scaring the boys for life. A few minutes later, Tomo confided in Misaki, telling him that she had tried all she could, but June just wouldn't view her as a girl. Misaki tried explaining that he wasn't sure that was the case, but June popped out of nowhere and scared the hell out of the Wes. Later that afternoon, while chilling in an eatery, Misuzu advised Tomo to spend more time with June or else he might catch feelings for some other girl. In addition, she suggested they do more couple activities like bowling and karaoke instead of beating each other up like UFC fighters. Tomo took her advice, and later in class, she invited June to hang out with her, which excited June like a kid going to Disneyland. During the break, Misuzu told Tomo to treat the hangout with June as a date and to also get some nice girly clothes for herself instead of dressing like a failed male rapper. Later that day, the girls went to the mall to shop for some girly clothes for the date. After shopping, Tomo dressed and linked up with June for the date. She was expecting the donkey to notice something different about her, but the box head didn't even notice a thing. However, shortly afterwards, they hit up some fun spots and finally ended the day in a karaoke room. But then, Tomo was internally freaking out, trying her best not to mess things up. But when she realized that June was just having fun and not thinking too deeply about anything, she decided to loosen up a little and then sang some embarrassing kids song which June recorded on his phone. The following day at school, Tomo vented to the girls how embarrassed she was singing kids songs while June just watched and recorded her cringy performance. But after listening to her complain, the girls just stood up and walked up to June, who was watching the video, and demanded that he show them the video. But suddenly, Tomo burst into the scene and embarrassingly chased after them. But June, while still watching the video, noticed something different about Tomo. The next day, Tanabe ran into Misuzu, his crush, and desperately tried to raise her up, but she dismissed his ugly ass. So hours later at school, Tanabe inquired from June why Misuzu always wore a stone-cold face and hardly smiled. However, this surprised June, who replied by saying Misuzu smiled all the time, especially when talking with him. Hearing this, Tanabe then tried to make Misuzu smile by making a stupid face, but she warned him that with the mechanical pencil she held, she could stab his nose and then tape his mouth after saying that. Before long, Misuzu and Tanabe crossed paths again. But this time, Misuzu bluntly asked if he liked her. Tanabe, almost choking on his words, immediately confessed his feelings, but Misuzu demanded he approach her next time more seriously so she could reject him properly. A few hours later, Tomo chatted with Misuzu about the whole smiling thingy and questioned why she only smiled around June. Tomo asked if she liked June, and in response, Misuzu played around with her feelings a bit before telling her that she had no feelings for her man. In the next scene, Tomo saw two girls embracing each other, which made her really sad. She explained to Misuzu, standing beside her, that she would love it if her friends hugged her like that. However, she revealed that when she tried hugging her friends in the past, she nearly sent them to the afterlife to meet Kobe, so they all unanimously agreed to never let her try again. Tomo then asked Misuzu if they could hug like those girls, since they'd practically been besties since childhood, but Misuzu immediately shut her down like she just tested positive to coronavirus. Feeling rejected, Tomo decided to hug Carol instead. While they hugged, Tomo realized just how soft and squishy the female plots were, which made her drawn to the sweetness. After school that day, Tomo started hugging every damn girl she saw like a psychiatric patient. This made Misuzu kinda jealous, and she started acting strange towards Tomo. Sensing the bad vibe among the girls, Carol assumed she must be at fault for hugging Tomo. So she tried apologizing to Misuzu, but Misuzu brushes it off saying she was not the cause but someone else who kept pestering Tomo. Eventually on the rooftop, Misuzu apologized to Tomo for acting cold towards her, even agreeing to let Tomo hug her. Excited, Tomo hugged her, and then they squashed the beef. Misuzu then suggested Tomo hug June the same way, and Tomo felt it was a great idea. However, when she tried hugging June from the back, June yanked her hand away, and as expected, it resulted in a fistfight, with Tomo punching his face. The following morning, Tomo woke up to find June by her bedside like some creepy stalker, and as expected, she beat the idiot blue-black. Following this, they had breakfast, and that was when Tomo's mom, Aizawa, casually revealed that Tomo's dad would rather spend his time in his dojo than have breakfast with his family. Also, she told them that her husband was still very shy when he was with her, even though they'd been married for years. After breakfast, Aizawa dragged Tomo and June to the dojo, and on seeing the Yunjins, Tomo's dad, Goro, scolded them for coming late to training. Aizawa stepped in, apologizing on the kids' behalf, but as she touched Goro, the fugly bear smoked his ear and collapsed instantly. Later that afternoon at school, the ugly girls from earlier confided in Tomo that one of them, Ogawa, was mixed up in some drama with the leader of a scary group. Hearing this, Tomo followed them to meet the donkey-faced thug and politely asked that he back off Ogawa. However, when the shady bully tried to act all manly, Tomo kicked him in the guts, crashing him to the wall. Later that evening, June, passing by, overheard the disgusting thugs planning their revenge on Tomo. Pissed, he kicked the idiotic leader on the same wounded guts. Before long, the ugly thugs, looking battered like they battled Hulk, fell on their knees and then apologized to Tomo. Several weeks later, Tomo and Misuzu head to Carol's house for a girls' hangout. Getting to the gate of the house, they eventually met Carol's mom, who was just as dust-brained as her daughter and mistook Tomo for a boy. On getting inside the luxurious mansion, they eventually met Carol, who was excited to see them. She took them inside her room, and Tomo was blown away by the Barbie theme going on. She then asked Carol if she was a princess, but Misuzu explained to the cave girl that it was obvious Carol's parents were filthy rich. While Tomo and Carol looked at Carol's baby pictures, Misuzu excused herself and left for the bathroom. But while walking to the bathroom, she noticed Carol's mom trailing behind her like some creep. Misuzu then stopped and asked the maniac what she wanted. Carol's mom replied by saying she had observed how Misuzu was mean to Carol, so she just wanted to know why Misuzu was being mean to her daughter. Misuzu, as savage as always, told her that she was only friends with Carol because her parents were loaded. However, the woman just laughed it off and called her cute. After playing a game of chess in which Carol absolutely destroyed both Tomo and Misuzu, the girls were about to take their leave. Just then, Carol's mom gave them both a warm embrace and insisted they stop by again. Days later at school, Tomo was nervous because of the upcoming midterm exams. So Misuzu suggested they form a study group to prepare for the exams. Carol, of course, wanted to be a part of the study group, so Misuzu reluctantly agreed for her to join. Just then, Jun popped out of nowhere, insisting that Tomo formed a study group with him as her tutor. But Misuzu let him know that in the last session, she came first in the entire school, so if anyone was eligible to be a tutor, it was her. After school, Tomo was surprised that Misuzu didn't try to get her and Jun together like she always does, but Misuzu let her know she would play matchmaker only when it suited her. Shortly afterwards, the girls arrived at Misuzu's home to begin the study lesson. Inside, Tomo observed that Misuzu's home had changed a lot compared to the last time she visited when they were still kids. She then asked Misuzu why she had stopped her from visiting her home. Misuzu then explained that she did so because back then, Tomo had always behaved like a gorilla and wrecked her home. Later, in Misuzu's room, the girls tackled some math problems using Misuzu's high IQ method. But Tomo's saltwater brain cells were finding it difficult to understand like it was quantum physics. However, Carol stepped in and solved the problem easily, causing Tomo to be highly impressed with her genius skills, even though she looked like a complete dummy. Feeling quite jealous, Misuzu remarked that math wasn't always easy and sometimes could be very hard. After the midterm exams, Tomo managed to rank 70, while Jun ranked 54th. Tomo then asked for Misuzu's score, and Misuzu proudly said she came second. But the girls were shocked when they discovered that Carol actually came first. Later that day at school, Jun invited Tomo to his place to play some video games. However, Tomo became nervous because she had to spend the night at Jun's place and tried to wriggle her way out of it. But Misuzu and Carol insisted she went. So after school that day, Tomo informed her parents that she would be spending the night at Jun's place, but she was shocked to realize they didn't give a fud if she slept at a guy's place. Getting to Jun's crib, Jun dropped a shocker and told Tomo that his mom had gone on a trip. So apparently, they were the only ones at home. After eating some curry, they started off gaming, but Jun dominated every round of the game, making Tomo feel like a total loser. After playing for a while, they prepared for bed. Before sleeping, Jun mentioned how much fun he had playing games with her. This made Tomo kinda emotional, and she was on the verge of confessing her feelings for the second time, but Jun had already drifted to slumberland. While he slept, Tomo felt the urge to stare at his face up close, since she might not get another opportunity. But at that moment, Jun grabbed her subconsciously, pulling her close. The next morning, Jun woke up to find Tomo so close to him that he freaked out. Tomo, on the other hand, left for her house, and on the way, she reflected on how much fun she had but became flustered when she remembered that she had woken up sleeping so close to Jun. On Tomo's 16th birthday, she received a Ray-Ban glass as a gift from Jun, which made her excited. She couldn't help but show off her pair of new shades to Misuzu. Misuzu, on the other hand, gave her a reference book as a birthday gift, while Carol handed her a literal gold brick as a gift. But Misuzu whispered to Carol, telling her that her gift was awkward, and then suggested she gave Tomo a weekend makeover instead. Fast forward to the weekend, the girls transformed Tomo by making her look less manly and more feminine. They insisted she wore a dress and a wig and then splashed some makeup on her face. Then they sent her to get ice cream with the intention of making guys drool over her. Getting to the convenience store, Tomo ran into Jun, and feeling totally embarrassed, she dashed out of the store with the ice cream but tripped and fell on the ground. Jun, noticing this, played Mr. Nice Guy by helping her up but suspected that the person in front of him looked oddly familiar. Following that, they hung out a bit, watching kids playing soccer, and Tomo immediately noticed a girl playing with some random boys. Jun, feeling nostalgic, pointed out that he also had a female bestie, just like the little girl, but lately things weren't the same as when they were kids. The following day at school, it was announced that the school would be having its annual ball sports tournament. Hearing this, Tomo instantly became hyped about the tournament. While she trained with intense vigor, the girls of the team feared for their lives, so they ran away. So because of that, the coach put Tomo on the boys' dodgeball team instead. The competition commenced, with Tomo and Jun's first-year team completely destroying the third year and every other team they encountered. However, getting to the finals, Tanabe informed them that the team captain they were facing, Goma, was a literal beast and was totally overpowered like Dragon Ball Z. But Jun and Tomo were confident they could take on the team. In the final round of the tournament, the overpowered dude with his clapped face started off by taking out Tanabe like some random side character on Attack on Titan. Then he went on eliminating the rest of Tomo's team like they were nothing. When he targeted Tomo, Jun stepped in to save her and got hit by the ball. This made Tomo furious, so she unleashed her inner Kuruma chakra mode, but instead of striking the ape, she passed the ball to Tanabe, who hit the sideline, and their team ended up winning the tournament. The following morning, while jogging, Jun arrived at a very high stairs and had a flashback of 10 years ago when he first met Tomo. On that day, he and his family had just moved to the vicinity from Tokyo. So while immersed in playing his Nintendo game, Tomo showed up like a monkey on his fence. Being an absolute menace, she grabbed his Nintendo, started to play, and ended up destroying the game. Jun was pissed, so he knocked her out like a low-budget Mike Tyson. Afterwards, they formally introduced themselves, and even more awkward Tomo's Thanos of a father showed up at Jun's home with Tomo to apologize. So from that day henceforth, Jun and Tomo hit off the most energy-consuming friendship ever. Weeks later, Tomo decided to bring Misuzu into the circle of friendship, and even though the Wednesday Atom wasn't all that friendly towards Jun, they still hung out together. One day, the trio went bug catching in the forest, and they had to climb the high stairs just to get to the forest. While Jun could barely manage to keep his feet on the ground, Tomo carried Misuzu on her back and was climbing just fine, making Jun wonder if Tomo was a mutant. Several days later, little Jun was busy playing games on his Nintendo like some normie nerd. But suddenly, two ugly scumbags bullied him. Even though he tried to hide the bullying incident from Tomo because he was embarrassed, Tomo somehow found out like Sherlock Holmes and recovered the Nintendo game the dirty bullies took from him. However, this got Jun really pissed, causing them to fight. But Tomo ended up putting him in a chokehold like some WWE superstar. After the fight, Tomo didn't understand why the boy was all moody even after helping to retrieve his gaming device that the bully had collected. But the thing was, Jun felt like a total sissy, realizing that a girl had to fight his battles. With that, he gave Tomo his Nintendo to hold onto, only to return it on the day he was strong enough to beat her. To achieve this, he registered for dojo classes at Tomo's dad's dojo. Fast forward to the present, Tomo was still playing Jun's Nintendo, but she thought to herself that Jun might probably take it back soon because he was way stronger than her now. During the summer break, the girls decided to go to the beach, and somehow they dragged Jun along. The reason was that Misuzu, the evil schemer, was dying to see Jun's reaction when he would see Tomo in a swimsuit. So while at the beach, the girls emerged from the portable toilets in their bikinis. But Jun stared up at the sky because he didn't want to see Misuzu's flat chest and was only interested in Carol's and Tomo's. When he eventually got to see Tomo's bouncy floaties, he freaked out, and seeing this, Misuzu couldn't help but enjoy the scene, laughing out loud. Shortly afterwards, Tomo and Carol raced to the ocean while Jun and Misuzu just stayed at the shore. However, Tomo returned to the shore and then dragged her man to the ocean to have some fun with her. It was all fun and games until Tomo noticed Carol clinging to Jun, which made her jealous, so she made water rocks and launched them at Carol for trying to snatch her man. Before long, some random idiot on the beach noticed the balloons on Tomo's chest and tried to hit on her, but Jun stepped in like Aquaman and shut it down even before anything started. Jun, feeling totally embarrassed for playing cock-blocker like he was her boyfriend, then apologized. But this only made Tomo feel a bit worried, so she confided in Misuzu and told her that she would want nothing more than for everyone to think that she and Jun were actually dating. Misuzu then advised her to take advantage of the fact that they were on the beach to get as close to Jun as possible for the rest of the day. Tomo implemented the advice and stuck with Jun for the rest of the day, which led to Jun seeing Tomo in a very different light and even having fun. Towards the end of the summer break, the girls had a sleepover in Tomo's house and decided to play a classic game of dares. Misuzu got the crown, and as the evil manipulator, she dared Tomo to attend the summer festival with Jun alone. Tomo got flustered and nervous, but with no choice, she walked over to Jun's house that night and invited him to the summer festival. Jun coldly agreed to accompany her to the festival, which made Tomo worried that he wasn't overly excited to spend alone time with her like he used to be. Meanwhile, Jun was over the moon in his room at the idea of spending time alone with Tomo at the festival. On the day of the festival, Tomo was dressed like a female samurai jack, and in Tomo's eyes, he was literally seeing an angel. Following this, they got involved in the festival activities, snacks and games, which Tomo really enjoyed. When it was time to see the fireworks, they headed to the highest spot of the festival to watch. There, Tomo felt it would be the best time to make another confession before the fireworks started, since Jun was slowly starting to see her as a girl. But she hesitated, and the fireworks started. After the festival, they walked home together, and Tomo suggested that they have fun like that again sometime. But as she left, Jun was anxious because he had started to see her like a girl, and that meant they would stop having their usual cat and rat fight sessions. At the beginning of the term, Tomo was on the rooftop of the school, venting to the girls about Jun's sudden change in character and how she missed their usual punch exchanges. Jun had been showing extra care and caution when touching her all of a sudden, and Tomo wasn't used to such princess treatment. Meanwhile, elsewhere, the wannabe gangsters that were trashed by Jun earlier started planning on how to get their revenge. They sighted Misuzu heading home and immediately recognized her as Tomo's friend. With that, they began their revenge mission by cornering Misuzu, planning to kidnap her, but Carol stepped in to save her using her tasing powers on the honcho of the misfits. With the thugs destabilized, the girls ran into an abandoned warehouse, and in there, Misuzu called Jun to come rescue them. However, Tomo found out and insisted on tagging along. On the other hand, the leader of the thugs found Misuzu and Carol hiding and was about to molest them, but Tomo arrived just in time to beat the living daylight out of him. At the same time, Jun took care of the other thugs. Meanwhile, Misaki, who somehow overheard Jun and Misuzu talking about saving the girls, showed up, and on seeing Carol looking a bit roughed up, went full berserk mode and almost castrated the leader of the goons. However, before he could, Carol cleared things up and said she was not violated. Misaki, in one of his flashbacks, remembered when he was little and got to meet Carol for the first time. It was love at first sight. Back in the present, Misaki decided to join Tomo's dad's dojo so he could get that Goku physique. Tomo's dad, Goro, saw some potential in the skinny kid. If only my dad saw some potential in me. So with that, Goro decided to train him, and after going through various rigorous training exercises, it was time for a sparring match against Jun. During the spar, Jun was emitting fire like a Dragon Ball while Misaki, in a desperate attempt to prove himself, launched an attack but got punched in the guts so hard by Jun, knocking him out instantly. The following morning, while strolling to school with Carol, Misaki proudly opened up to her and said that he had just started some fighting lessons at Tomo's dad's dojo. He also said he decided to start the fighting lessons so he could get Tomo's acknowledgement. Hearing this, Carol immediately became jealous, so she stormed off to find Jun and then asked to hang out with him later, just to make Misaki jealous. While leaving the class, Misaki ran into Misuzu, who after overhearing her asking Jun to hang out, warned her not to mess with Tomo and Jun's love situation. Later that day, while hanging out in the park, Carol told Jun that she felt bad for being mean to Misuzu and for also messing around with her friend's man. But Jun assured her that the girls would forgive her. After hanging out in the park, they somehow ended up inside Jun's room, and Carol saw that as an opportunity to torture Tomo for standing in her way with Misaki. She immediately got on top of Jun and was about to give him intense pleasure with her jizz-worthy chesticles, but Jun freaked out and immediately rushed to Tomo's home. Getting there, he hugged her and tried apologizing for something, but he couldn't help thinking about how he had failed to accept Tomo as a girl until they settled the score with his Nintendo. Just then, Carol popped out of nowhere. After having a sudden change of heart, she apologized for messing with their love, and they all made up. The following day at the rooftop, Carol also apologized to Misuzu for behaving like a and not heeding her warning. Misuzu then accepted her apology and offered to help Carol get Misaki. With that, Misuzu confronted Misaki about his feelings, and the blonde boy admitted to loving Carol, but just didn't know the best way of confessing to her. Hearing this, Misuzu, sensing an opportunity for maximum drama, hatched a plan to make Carol vulnerable so Misaki could confess his feelings. The scheme kicked off, and Misuzu met up with Carol and told her to give up on Misaki because all her efforts to make him jealous by hanging out with Jun were pointless. Hearing this, Carol was heartbroken, and she ran off crying, even bumping into Jun and Tomo in the hall. Misuzu, still on her plan, linked up with Misaki and told her how Carol was all heartbroken. So Misaki rushed over to Carol's home to apologize, but the first person he met was her mom, who headbutted him for testing out his playboy skills on her daughter. Finally, Misaki made his way to Carol's room only to find her crying bitterly, and there he confessed that he loved her, which made the sad girl really giddy. The next day at school, Tomo and Misuzu were worried about Carol, but the Karen showed up in a ridiculous rabbit mask from Temu, which scared the shit out of them, especially Misuzu. However, Carol took off the mask and gave Misuzu a kiss on her cheek as a show of gratitude. The following week, the school organized a marathon for the students. Tomo and Jun were hiked up, both ready to finish first in the race. As the marathon commenced, Tomo and Jun took the lead almost immediately, like they ate some kind of evolution fruit. But suddenly, Tomo, out of desperation to win the marathon, collapsed and fainted mid-race and was saved by Jun. Shortly afterwards, Tomo regained consciousness only to find herself in the hospital bed with Misuzu and Carol standing by her. Tomo inquired to know what happened, and Misuzu informed her that she fainted mid-race, so Jun carried her on his back, finished the race, and brought her to the hospital. Just then, Jun got to the hospital to check on Tomo, so to keep things spicy, Misuzu whispered to Tomo, telling her to milk the situation and get something out of Jun now that everyone thought she was sick. As the girls left, Jun informed Tomo that her mom, Akemi, would be coming soon to pick her up. But to take advantage of the situation, Tomo insisted that Jun carry her on his back. With no choice, Jun carried her on his back to her mom, who was already waiting inside the car. The following day, Jun checked up on Tomo at home. Tomo then handed back Jun's Nintendo to him, saying he had proved to be stronger than her by finishing the marathon, even with her on his back. Just then, Jun had a flashback to Goro Dojo years back when he landed his first hit on Tomo and was incredibly proud of himself, as if he had just won the Nobelize. Still in the flashback, Tomo and Jun enrolled in the same school. Seeing Tomo in a skirt, Jun was baffled because he had always assumed Tomo to be one of the boys. Tomo, feeling down because of this, complained to Misuzu, but Misuzu told her that she had always known Jun was an idiot, nothing else. Meanwhile, Jun in class was approached by a student asking if he and Tomo were dating. Hearing this, Jun was shocked, and he moved from anime to manga in seconds. Shortly, Jun also got to overhear some girls asking Tomo if she was dating Jun, which Tomo declined and told the girls that the blind mice didn't even see her as a girl. So during lunch that day, Tomo tried talking with Jun, but he ignored her, and for over a year, they didn't speak to each other. At the same time, Misuzu was concerned because she no longer enjoyed any activity with Tomo anymore, because Tomo was always hyped up and too strong. Jun, on the other hand, felt lonely and was thinking of a way to reconcile with Buto. But finally, he concluded that it was best that he just got himself a girlfriend instead. Misuzu, walking by, ran into Jun eating alone, so she asked why he always stayed alone. Jun explained that he was lonely because he couldn't make friends even when he tried. But Misuzu disagreed and said he was lonely because he didn't want anyone to replace Tomo. She then advised him to make up with Tomo, but the brain-dead saw it as the perfect opportunity to ask her to be his girlfriend. Misuzu, always one for drama, agreed instantly to the adventure. But after their first date, which was a bike ride up a mountain, and on the second day they went fishing, Jun knew she entered the wrong relationship. Back in school, Misuzu was dead tired, like she had lifted a helicopter, and noticing this, Tomo asked what the problem was. Misuzu explained that she couldn't keep being her friend, but Tomo dragged her outside and insisted they talk things out. Misuzu revealed that she had the strength of a wet sock and was finding it really hard to keep Tomo's rigorous activities. But Tomo insisted that they continue being friends, and eventually they laughed it off. Later on, Misuzu was ready to break off her chaotic relationship with Jun, but Jun beat her to it, leaving her feeling bummed. Hours later, Jun was determined to end his weird vibes with Tomo, so he approached her for a heart-to-heart conversation. So while walking home that day, Tomo from nowhere punched Jun after a brief moment of silence for taking so long to apologize. Almost in tears, she demanded to know why he had avoided her like a plague for almost a year, and Jun replied by apologizing for being an insensitive jerk. But before she could accept his apology, Tomo landed another punch square to his guts, because clearly her love language was her fist. Finally, they made up and promised each other to be better friends. The next day in class, Tomo decided she wanted to buy Jun a special gift for his birthday, but she was dead broke. To make this happen, she figured a part-time job was the way to go, but she needed a little backup, so she turned to Misuzu and Carol for help. Misuzu, always the voice of reason, told her the idea was a bad one because she might end up beating up her employer, so she decided to join in on the job hunt to keep things under control. Carol, being a supportive friend, also offered her assistance. Just then, Tanabe overheard them and then offered them a gig at his family's ramen restaurant. So later on, he introduced Tomo and her friends to his greasy fart of father, who ran the business in the absence of his mom. Dressed in their uniforms, Tomo and her crew dived into their new roles. It was a bit of a disaster, with Tomo and Carol failing spectacularly at serving customers. Misuzu, on the other hand, handled her tasks with the precision of a ninja, making her the clear star of the day. Just when things seemed to settle, Jun strolled into the restaurant, catching Tomo completely off guard. After a long shift, Tomo and her friends received their paychecks, bid farewell to Tanabe and his father, and headed out. However, Tomo bumped into Jun, so Misuzu and Carol tactfully exited to give the two some alone time. On their walk home, Jun shared that he enjoyed visiting Tanabe's restaurant because the ramen tasted better when Tomo served it. The next day, Tomo presented Jun with his birthday gift, which was a smartwatch for both of them. In class the following day, Tomo discussed with Misuzu about how to look more feminine to Jun. So Misuzu devised the perfect plan to get Jun to accidentally touch Tomo's melons. With that, Misuzu and Tomo took their positions at the stairs, ready to execute their grand plan. Jun then arrived, and Misuzu gave him a little push, but the plan went south. Jun dodged Tomo and accidentally grabbed Carol's huge globes instead. Carol, as always, played it cool, brushing it off. On the other hand, Misuzu started to question whether her plan had been too extreme, but before she could dwell on it, she tumbled down the stairs. Thankfully, Tanabe cushioned her fall with his meat and also seized the chance to exchange contact info with him. The next day, Tomo noticed Misuzu wasn't at school, so Carol explained that Misuzu was homesick. Meanwhile, there was talk about who should play Cinderella in the upcoming cultural festival play. So later that day, Tomo visited Misuzu, who was bedridden, hoping to lift her spirits. Tomo mentioned that she had noticed Misuzu spending much time with Carol and felt a bit neglected. Before leaving, Tomo left a pamphlet for the Cinderella play behind, advising Misuzu not to overthink things. Misuzu, however, was baffled to find that Carol had voted for her as Cinderella while Tomo would play the prince. During the play rehearsals, everyone got into their costumes, and Misuzu noticed that while everyone else was moving forward, she was finding it difficult to play Cinderella. Having overheard Misuzu's self-doubt, Jun suggested she should talk things out with Tomo. On the day of the school play, Tomo, Carol, and Misuzu's mothers gathered at the school culture festival, eagerly anticipating their daughter's performance in the Cinderella play. As the play started, the cast, including Jun and Tomo, were all in their element. The audience, including Carol's gang, went wild when Jun, playing the role of the prince, got down on one knee and proposed to Misuzu, the Cinderella. When the play ended, Jun invited Tomo to stroll around the festival. Later, Tomo, Jun, Carol, and Misaki dived into a festival dance-off, leaving Misuzu solo. Carol snatched Misuzu up, and Misuzu thanked Carol for giving her the role, suspecting it had helped her patch things up with Tomo. As Tomo and Jun danced, Jun got a bit brave and almost spilled his feelings for Tomo. Overwhelmed, Tomo bolted from the scene. Fast forward a few days, Jun bumped into Misaki, and they got chatting. Jun admitted he liked Tomo, but Misaki didn't read too much meaning into it. However, Misaki then advised Jun to be more direct with his feelings, and Jun thanked him. So the following day at school, Tomo discovered a mysterious challenge letter on her desk, directing her to the rooftop. Hyped up, she rushed to the rooftop only to find Jun there. Reflecting on Tomo's initial confession of her feelings, Jun questioned whether she had meant it as a friendly gesture. Tomo, frustrated, said she had been trying to be more girly for his blind self to see, which Jun hadn't realized. The situation escalated, and Tomo punched Jun in the face in a burst of rage. As Jun lay on the ground, Tomo reflected on her actions and felt guilty for hitting him. Still recovering, Jun told Tomo he loved her, but she stormed off to meet Misuzu and Carol. Carol then suggested that she and Jun should just go out already, but Tomo was too scared. However, Misuzu reassured Tomo that she didn't need to change who she was to win Jun's heart. Misuzu felt guilty about the mess between Tomo and Jun, so she encouraged Tomo to make things right and sent Tomo racing off to find Jun. Soon after, Tomo reached Jun and asked for another chance, so they headed to the same spot where Tomo had first confessed her feelings. There, Jun promised his love was real, and Tomo's joy was unimaginable. But there was a problem. Tomo said being in a relationship might change things between them, with the possibility that they wouldn't be the same buddies anymore. But Jun argued that they could still compete and be friends even as a couple, after which he challenged Tomo to a race up the stairs. Tomo won the race, and Jun laughed, declaring that even as a couple, their rivalry wouldn't die. Deciding to keep up their friendly rivalry, Tomo told Jun she loved him, and suddenly, the Morin stumbled down the stairs. Panicking, Tomo quickly checked if he was alive and then found him lying on the ground, congratulating himself on a win while she looked on, amused. Weeks later, Tomo had lunch with Carol and Misuzu, and while eating, she complained about Jun feeling way too chill about their new relationship. Carol chimed in, suggesting that Tomo should just plant a kiss on Jun. Hearing this, Tomo's face turned crimson, and she muttered that she wasn't ready for that level of PDA yet. Misuzu, trying to keep things light, suggested they watch No Kiss, No Life on Christmas, a movie that might give Jun the right vibe. Tomo was on board with the idea, and then met Jun at the theater, brimming with nerves and excitement. June, who had the jitterbugs just thinking about the movie, tried to play it cool. Meanwhile, Tomo had been obsessing over the movie poster for a week like it was her secret weapon against anxiety. The film started, and Tomo tried to get cozy with June, but the movie's overly dramatic love scenes made her anxious. After the movie, June admitted that romance movies were his thing now, probably because he realized that his feelings for Tomo made him connect with them. After which they exchanged Christmas gifts, which was cute, but it didn't quite solve Tomo's burning question, how to make June like her even more. Later that night, Tomo stayed over at June's place, but they were both so nervous. Tired of the awkward silence, Tomo eventually had enough and blurted out that she had come there to kiss June. However, June, the hopeless romantic, said he wanted the moment to be special. He confessed that he hadn't officially accepted her as his girlfriend yet, and Tomo's face turned a whole new shade of red. June then dropped a bombshell. He said he had already talked to Tomo's parents, and while her mom was cool with their relationship, her dad, Goro, had a condition. Goro demanded that June defeat him in a fight before he could permit him to date his daughter. Angered at hearing the ridiculous condition, Tomo stormed to confront her dad. Filled with anger, Tomo declared that she hated her dad and retreated to her room. The following day, June showed up at Tomo's place but was told she wasn't seeing anyone. Akemi, Tomo's mom, suggested that June just take on Goro now, as he was supposedly out of practice. June, not in the mood to die, decided to skip the showdown and head to school. At school, Tomo was fuming. She couldn't believe June had kept this whole fight Goro business from her. June, determined to prove himself, agreed to challenge her father. When the big day arrived, June faced off against Goro, but things were not going well. After getting a pep talk from Misaki, Tomo decided she couldn't just stand by. She dashed from the dojo to her home, where June was barely holding on to life. Just as June was about to lose hope, Tomo interrupted, challenging her dad herself. She told June she didn't want to interfere with his fight but wanted to take a shot if things didn't go as planned. June was not about to let a girl fight his fight this time, so he decided to face Goro one last time. This time, he found Goro's weak spot and managed to win the fight. After the dust settled, June confessed his love for Tomo and asked her out. Tomo, her nerves finally giving way to excitement, took the chance to clap the shyness out of his lips. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and if you want another recap like this, we suggest you watch this video right